Hey everybody, this video is going to detail a quick yet still effective warm-up you can do before shooting with just an arrow. We know that warming up before shooting, or any physical activity for that matter, helps prevent injury, helps desensitize pain if you do have any mild pain or discomfort in the shoulders or upper body, and then helps prep you for the best performance that you can have. However, I know for many archers, including myself, warm-ups tend to get pushed off to the side or not exist at all because they can be inconvenient, or you may not have equipment such as bands and dumbbells that you can use at your disposal. However, everybody has an arrow or multiple arrows that they can use. And I won't say that this arrow warm-up is going to be as effective as a full warm-up with bands or even light weights. However, I'm a big believer in a little bit is better than none at all. So this warm-up is something that you can use whether you're out on the range or on the competition floor and you want to do something to make sure that you're setting yourself up for the best possible shooting that you can have. Look to these 4 movements and they will help you overall as an archer. Before we take a look at the 4 movements that you are going to do for this arrow-only warm-up, I want to briefly touch on the 2 main focuses that we have for this warm-up, or any warm-up that you do before shooting your bow. The first focus that we have is actively moving the shoulder joint and the shoulder girdle through a range of motion. And the big key word there is active, meaning that we want you to be moving that shoulder under your own force, under your own effort. What that's going to do is that's going to help you get tissues lengthening and shortening. It's going to lubricate and move that ball and socket joint, and it's going to get you prepared to execute the movements and the ranges of motion that are going to occur in your shot. And the reason why I point this out is I often get questions from archers of what stretches should I do before I shoot my bow, or how should I stretch before I shoot my bow. And remember that our goal here, exactly as it sounds, is to warm up. And not that stretching is bad necessarily, but the research is pretty clear that just passively cranking on the shoulder and stretching out the shoulder and gaining extra range of motion that way doesn't prepare the shoulder and the shoulder girdle as well as active, or sometimes you'll hear the word dynamic movement. So I want you to start getting away from that idea of stretching to warm up and still think, yes, we want to open that shoulder and mobilize that shoulder, but instead of just passively doing it or passively stretching, we want to do that actively. And you'll see examples of that in the warm up. The second focus that we have here is we want to introduce load to the shoulder before we shoot our bow. And this is a big one, because what often happens is if we don't warm up, we're going from really no loading in the shoulder to our full poundage of our bow, and there's no stepping stone in between, and that's where sometimes injury can occur, or if you do have mild pain or discomfort of the shoulders, that's where it's really magnified, because you get to those first few arrows and you're stiff and you're sore and you might have pain until you get some load moving those shoulders and getting these shoulders to see load. So think of these movements as stepping stones to your full poundage of your bow. We want to get those tissues working, contracting, and show those stepping stones of loading to the shoulder and the joint so that it is prepared to handle the full loading of your bow. The second focus that we have for the warm-up is introducing load to the shoulders and the shoulder girdle before you shoot your bow. What happens without a warm-up, or a warm-up that doesn't introduce load, is we go from being cold and static and stationary with no loading of the shoulders all the way to our full 100% poundage of our bow. It's similar to going from not moving and sitting on the couch to trying to sprint, where ideally we want stepping stones of loading to gradually build ourselves up to those first arrows and those first shots, because a lot of times those are the ones that can be sticky, can be stiff, can be sore, and if you have mild pain or discomfort in the shoulders and shoulder joints, introducing load can also help desensitize your shoulders. So think of these movements as stepping stones to your full poundage. Your muscles gradually get to see some of that stress you're going to see when you shoot your bow. We're going to get the tissues to contract and prepare themselves for those stressful or straining movements of drawing and holding. So preparing the shoulders for load is often a big key that's missing from warm-ups, and it's one of the most important things we can do, not only for desensitizing the shoulders, but also preventing injury and making sure that you feel good from your first arrow to your very last. This is the first movement that you are going to do in the arrow only warm-up, and it is called a Bradford press. You're going to see the shoulders and shoulder girdle move through a range of motion here. What you need to do is grab approximately shoulder width on the arrow. A little bit wider is okay, or a little bit more narrow. And you're going to start simply with the arrow in front of your chest. You don't have to overthink this position. And from here, you're going to smoothly go up and over your head to your back, and then return. And you're going to repeat repetitions like so. You can kind of see from this side angle the small arcing or arch motion that's occurring here. And again, we're simply moving the shoulders through a range of motion. They are going to stretch a little bit here. Some people will find this range of motion more challenging than the others, but the tissues are also working here as well. You can even get a little bit bigger with your arcing motion if you want to provide a little bit more range of motion. And the simplest way to count this motion is going to be each time you go up and over your head is 1 rep. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as you repeat that, you're looking for anywhere between likely 50 reps up to 100. There's really no concrete rep number here because I want you to go by feel, meaning that you're looking to feel warm, you're looking to feel like you have more range of motion, you're looking to feel like those shoulders are working without getting to a point of fatigue. We don't want to overly fatigue you or make you overly tired before you go to shoot. We're simply looking to have you warm up. Now, 2 faults quickly to watch out for in this motion is you do not want to hyperextend or break at your midsection. You want to stay neutral like you would in your shots and avoid arching and bending. The other thing is we want the shoulder girdle to do the range of motion instead of the head moving out of the way. So avoid the head moving out of the way, which takes demand off of the shoulders. Keep the head still, the center neutral, the spine neutral as you repeat that press up and over your head. The second movement of this arrow only warm-up is called a Cuban rotation. We're going to move the shoulder joint through a different range of motion with this movement, where you grab in that same approximate shoulder width apart grip on your arrow, and you're going to start in what you can think of as like a scarecrow position, where elbows are approximately at 90 degrees depending on how long your arrow is and how wide your hands are. But your starting position is here where the forearms are sloped down. From here, you're going to simply rotate up to this 90-degree position at the elbow, 90-degree position at the shoulder, and then rotate back down. So now we're getting some nice rotational movement in that ball and socket joint. And I like to think as I rotate up to squeeze the shoulder blades, tilt them down. And then as I rotate down, I just smoothly allow the joint to do what it wants to do in that position. You don't need to get excessive with reaching way back behind yourself. Everybody's range of motion is going to be a little bit different, but a typical stopping point will be about vertical with the forearm as you rotate up and down. The big important factor here is you want to pretend that your elbow tips are staying on a dot and they're not moving. It's simply just the forearms and the shoulder joint rotating. So I'm not moving the elbow tip and the whole arm. I'm just allowing rotation to occur at the joint. For repetitions here, you can think every rotation is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And for this movement, the Cuban rotation, you're going to be at a slightly lower rep range, approximately 25 to 50. But again, go by feel. Some people may need less. I don't recommend going more than 50 because your shoulders and your joints will get the necessary benefit at that rep number. So find what allows you to feel warmed up, like you've gained some range of motion, and feel like the shoulders are working without going to fatigue and making yourself tired. The third movement of this arrow only warm up is going to be in that same approximately shoulder width apart grip. However, we're going to not only continue to move that shoulder joint, shoulder girdle through a range of motion, but we're also going to start to introduce a little bit more load. And what I mean by that is here, you want to just pull apart on the arrow just a little bit. Doesn't need to be excessive, doesn't need to be overly hard, but just enough to get a little bit of tension in the outside of the shoulders and the upper back. And your starting position here is going to be up in this 90-90 position. And you're going to stay here in this position as you're slightly pulling apart on that arrow. You tip from side to side. And as you tip from side to side, you're going to start to feel that lat, back of the shoulder, tricep open up and stretch out a bit. And you repeat that motion side to side, nice and smooth. If you want, you can get a little extra mobilization in the spine by tipping a little bit laterally side to side, following the arrow. You don't have to do this, but that's just another nice way to get the torso and the spine involved in this mobilization. We can go to that approximately 25, 50, even a little bit higher rep range for this exercise, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, going to that point of feeling warmed up, feeling mobilized. Your fourth and final movement for this arrow-only warm-up is going to introduce the most loading to your shoulders while also moving them through a range of motion. Now we're going to have a little bit of a different grip where we will still be approximately shoulder width apart, but notice that I'm now underhand on this arrow, and I'm going to start at approximately 90 degrees with the elbow. From here, the first thing I need to do before I get into my movement is pull apart on the arrow a bit here as well. Again, you're not trying to pull the arrow completely apart or snap your carbon or anything like that. It's just a little bit of tension pulling apart into a nice isometric, which is a great way to, again, desensitize the shoulder and load the shoulder before shooting. So I'm pulling apart on that arrow, and I continue pulling apart the whole time with that moderate pressure. From here, I'm going to keep that 90-degree position at the elbow as I smoothly raise and lower. So I'm moving through a range of motion, while I'm also getting the musculature, particularly of the outside and back of the shoulders and upper back, to work, as well as the front of the shoulder as you pass through these different positions, keeping everything engaged by pulling apart and everything neutral in the midsection. You can look to approximately that 25 to 50 rep range as well, but go by feel, where we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. The most important thing is that you find that balance that works for you as far as feeling worked, but not being fatigued. We don't want you to be overly tired going into shooting. There you have it. Those are the 4 movements you can do for an arrow-only warm-up. Now remember, as I said in the beginning of the video, I do not believe, and I do not want you to think that this is as effective as a warm-up with a band or even light weights. However, if we can get some archers warming up that normally wouldn't warm up at all, then that is a big win, because I understand that sometimes it's not either convenient to warm up, you don't have a band, you don't want to take a band to the range or the shop or wherever you might shoot. So this is at least a little bit of a compromise that still allows you to prepare your shoulders and your upper body for shooting, so that you can put yourself in the best position to shoot with healthy shoulders now and in the future for years to come. Remember, if you liked this video and found it valuable, please hit the like button below, and you can subscribe to my channel to find more information in regards to strength training, rehab, and overall health for archers. Lastly, archerystrong.com has training systems and training programs to help any archer out there become the best version of an archer that they can. Thank you.